right here. All right, perfect. Well, I am so excited for today's webinar. My name is Erin. I am the Senior Marketing Manager here at Bandwango. I am joined by Greg and Lauren. Greg is the co-founder of Carvertise, Lauren, the Director of Marketing. We are so lucky to be joined by them today. We're going to get into everything that Carvertise does, what they provide, really everything that you need to know about Carvertise and why it works so well for Bandwango clients as well. So Greg and Lauren, I am going to put the presentation up here and you guys are good to go.
Great. Thank you, Erin. So we're going to do a quick little presentation on what is Carvertise and then go into some case studies on how it's worked for some mutual clients of ours. So Carvertise is exactly how it sounds. It's car advertise. And it takes kind of two concepts and puts it together. One is just the fact that wrap vehicles from an advertising perspective are totally overlooked and underutilized and are actually a very strategic way to advertise that most companies just aren't doing right now. So this is a study that Nielsen did that shows that wrap vehicles actually have the highest recall rate as compared to other mediums. And it's because it's just so unusual. Like this is still not a very popular thing, whereas people can get kind of tunnel vision when it comes to ads that are being thrown at them every day. This really stands out. So you're combining the power of wrap vehicles with the concept of rideshare, right? Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber Eats, Amazon Flex. Like this is a growing trend in how people get around right now. I mean, think about when you go to a different city, you call an Uber. When you get out of the airport, you call an Uber. Train, same thing. So it's a very important travel aspect of how people get around. So it's a really natural fit to combine this kind of car wrap, recall rate and advertising channel with using rideshare drivers who are driving around all day. So that's what Carvertise is. So how it works is we have a database of over 500,000 drivers who are from all across the country. And they're just people who can get paid to get their car wrapped in advertisement while they're already driving. So let's say, a DMO wants to advertise in Atlanta, just as an example. You would first choose your market coverage, so Atlanta. Within Atlanta, we would say, hey, we recommend you put 15 or 20 wrapped Ubers on the road. And during that time they're on the road, we also identify events where we can send the car drivers to. So think of Atlanta Hawks games, think of NFL games, think of food and wine festivals, think of concerts. So we put a package of events together that we can send these wrapped Uber and Lyft cars to. And the last point is we partner with a company called Placer to identify, not just how many people are seeing the car, but what demographics of people are seeing the car and where these demographics of people go for entertainment, for shopping, for eating. And part of the campaign is we send the cars to these hotspots where your target demographic resides. So you can say, hey, we want millennial travelers. We want young families. Using the Placer data, we can send cars to the places where young families go in Atlanta. So that's the high level of how it works. Some couple of picture examples. This is a Visit Cooperstown doing a swarm at the Eagles-Giants game. This is a smaller DMO with a smaller budget that is getting the best of both worlds, getting 50 to 100,000 people seeing their cars at a very fun atmosphere. Here's a larger budget DMO, USVI, doing a swarm, for example, at the New York City fashion show for Sports Illustrated. This is the audience they wanted was more, upscale, and it went along with their brand. Rumor has it a Kardashian got in one of the cars. Hasn't been confirmed. So that's how it works. There's a whole bunch of analytics we provide. It's not just wrapping cars and sending them places. We show impressions, heat maps, surveys from drivers. We can track if they went to a web page or not. And again, using Placer, we can identify the demographics that they go and send cars there. So my colleague Lauren will be able to talk more about specific use cases and some results we've gotten from some mutual clients we have with Bandwango.
Cool. Thanks, Greg. Okay, so before we dive into the two specific activations that we're going to be reviewing today, I did just want to give you guys like a brief snapshot of some of our partners. So as you can see, we work with DMOs, large DMOs, your mid-tier DMOs, all the way down to your small DMOs. So I did just want to let you guys know that, we work with all shapes and sizes and also, all different kinds of budgets. Okay, so jumping into the first activation that I wanted to discuss today is with our client and also a Bandwango client, Visit Cumberland Valley. So Visit Cumberland Valley, they did a really interesting wrapped rideshare campaign in the feeder markets of DC and Philadelphia. It was a 3-month campaign with 20 cars, 10 cars in each target market. So 10 in DC and 10 in Philadelphia. Part of their strategy was to send cars to, tourist attractions, right? Where there's always lines outside, there's people, there's a lot of eyeballs that could possibly be on cars. So that was just an interesting strategy that I wanted to call out. A second thing was this was their only advertising campaign that they did for the beer trail. And I will share a couple images with you guys next. Okay. So this was their wrap and their activation. So again, this was Visit Cumberland. As you can tell, or as you can see by the tire in the front, it says like 90 minutes from Philly. So they were really, again, pushing that like 90-minute. It's a quick getaway from Philadelphia or DC to come out, get some fresh air, have some beer, this is one of my favorite wraps. The tie-dye, it's nice and bright and colorful. And again, if I was outside grabbing a cheesesteak at Gito's and I saw this car drive by, being a big time beer drinker myself, and I saw that this was only 90 minutes away, there's some kind of beer trail. You better believe it that I would be, looking this up and seeing if I could, do a weekend getaway in Cumberland. But yeah, just fantastic creative. Here's another picture of the car driving through Philadelphia. Also one of my favorite photos, only because of the little like Wizard of Oz effect on the side. If you can see that little car, driving around in that person's bicycle. But just again, another great photo. Eyes on cars, right? They were going to places where people were out and about walking their dogs and just getting some fresh air. Something that Visit Cumberland incorporated into their activation was these beer trail passports. So these are like tangible handouts. So if you were picked up by a wrapped Uber and Lyft and you got inside and you wanted some more information, the drivers had these handouts. And again, it's just like another kind of like complimentary feature to the wrap that's already on the outside of the car. It's tie-dye. This is something tangible that you can take with you, after your ride and look up visitcumberlandvalley.com/beer, which is a landing page. So again, just a really nice feature. And then what were the results? So these results were phenomenal. So 8.5 million impressions made, 72,000 miles driven, and over 1,000 brochures distributed. And again, this was their only advertising campaign pushing the beer trail. And so there was over a 200% increase of site traffic from Philadelphia and DC going to visitcumberlandvalley.com/beer. So clearly, lots of eyes on the cars, lots of engagement. People were seeing these, spotting these cars, and then visiting the website. And then just a few other interesting results. So there were 241 sessions received from the Carvertise rideshare campaign through a tracking URL, and that generated 44 intent to travel actions. So think about it. Those are 44 highly qualified leads, okay? And then another interesting thing I wanted to call out was Visit Cumberland Valley they did a beer trail keyword paid search session for the months that this Carvertise activation was taking place in DC and Philly. And then they kind of compared it to the same time prior. And what they saw was that clearly in DC and in Philly, there was a 1,700 to 1,800% increase in paid search sessions. So again, phenomenal data. Clearly, you know, this was getting in front of the right people, and there was a high level of interest. Okay, and then the second activation is with our partners Visit Indy. And again, Visit Indy is a Carvertise client as well as a Bandwango client. So a little shout out to Bandwango there. But campaign details, so let's go through them. They did 33 wrapped rideshare cars, and they were primarily targeting the city of Chicago. And the campaign length was 3 months. And a little bit different creative compared to Visit Cumberland Valley. You know, this one's a little sleek, modern, you know, but still some great messaging, and, you know, fantastic design overall. Here's a few more of their cars out in the wild. These are in the wild pics that we love to get from some of our drivers. Okay, so this activation is very interesting because in addition to doing a rideshare advertising campaign, right, which is we already know is highly impactful, memorable, and it works. It's proven, right? But Visit Indy kind of took it a step further and layered in a couple different activations. And so one of which was they did a $500 prize pack giveaway in select Uber and Lyft cars to random tourists and passengers taking these Uber and Lyft. So some of these families were like hopping in, and then it was like, hey, by the way, you just won $500 worth of Visit Indy goods. And again, just further encouraging people to visit Indy. And so with that activation, they were really fanning the flames around this before, during, and after. Again, just trying to grow as many legs as possible off of this one campaign. So they did some PR in the beginning of this or prior to this campaign, letting people know, hey, we're coming to Chicago. We're going to be on the roads, chance to win all these cool different little prize packs. They were featured on the radio. They were in a couple other local and regional newsletters. And then obviously they use a lot of these assets and photos that were coming in real time on their social platforms as well. So again, it's just another kind of interesting case study that, again, the rideshare campaign we know is highly memorable and it's effective. But as you kind of continue to layer on these somewhat lower lift activations, you can really just make something like this, just expand, right? So here's a couple of photos of the families hopping in, a couple other really fun, engaging photos of people winning those prize packs, lots of smiles on their face. They're going to Indy. And then here's just a little snippet of some of the PR. So Visit Indy's executive director, Morgan Snyder. I don't know if you're on the call. Hi, Morgan, if you are. She was featured on air talking about the prize pack. And again, just kind of continuing to fan those flames is what you want. And then in terms of results, I think these numbers pretty much speak for themselves. This particular campaign outperformed expectations. And then I did just want to throw in one of our heat maps. So again, this is downtown Chicago. As you can see, our cars were everywhere. And primarily, as it gets kind of darker in and around Chicago and the Magnificent Mile, our cars were just saturating the Chicago market.
Perfect.
That was it on the activation front.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for giving us a little background on what Carvertise is. I think it's super helpful for everyone on the call, even if you are familiar. I know you learn something new every time you hear about it. So coming back to how this relates to Bandwango, why we wanted to have Greg and Lauren on a webinar. I think start off, what is Bandwango if you're not familiar? We are the technology platform that can curate experiences, whether that be a beer trail or an attractions pass, or you want to highlight your local businesses. We are the technology that can make that a mobile passport for you. So typically we work with DMOs, we work with all different types of organizations as well, as does Carvertise. So why this is a really great and interesting fit for Bandwango, as well as other organizations, is I think in our marketing talk that we give to all of our new clients, it has always been that Bandwango is really a bottom of the funnel, conversion focused marketing campaign that you need to drive. So you really need those bottom of the funnel audiences. You need them driving to those landing pages. So what we usually don't suggest is something like a billboard, because billboards, you drive impressions, but maybe not that conversion focus. Whereas these campaigns are awesome because not only do you have that wrap on the outside of the car, but as Lauren mentioned with Cumberland Valley, you can also have those activations inside the car. So you can have those pamphlets or that collateral that you can pass out. Going to go on a little tangent about how important UTM codes are for these. So for any clients that are interested in starting with Carvertise or just interested in these campaigns and how it can affect maybe a Bandwango pass or driving really specific data-driven traffic to your website, UTM codes can be really important in this. So if you're not familiar, it is a Google tool that you can then track how traffic is visiting your landing page from, let's say, QR code. So you can build it online and then you can put it into your QR code so you can see this traffic was driven specifically from the activations that were in this car, which is, I think, where it would be super beneficial for our clients to use those and see what kind of traffic comes. Obviously, there was more than 1,000 pamphlets passed out for Cumberland Valley. I'm sure more than a few of those were visiting that landing page. There are tons of impressions coming from these, and driving those to that conversion point, this is a really great way to do that. So we are going to hop into some questions with Greg and Lauren. Obviously, please put questions into the chat if you have any for any of us. We're happy to answer them. But from me,
please
I
talk
just
to
wanted
us. Please talk to us.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We've already caught up. You know, we want to hear from you all. But,
I know. We want to know who's out there.
Perfect. Well, what makes a successful campaign, would you both say?
Greg, you want to jump in? You want me to start?
I'll start. I think so. I think an understanding of your audience is important. You know, understanding of what your objectives are. The more information you could tell us, like, we want to target this audience, we want this market, we have this demographic, the better we can put together a package that makes the most sense for you. So I think it's understanding your audience, one. Two, I think it's creative. Like,
yeah, that's what I was gonna.
We can, you know, we can do all we can, get the best cars and everything like that, but you needs to look good. Like Cumberland, Visit Indy, like, it's no surprise that their creative was very good, which also led to their great results. And we have people on staff that help with that, so it's no cost to our clients. So like, you need to make it look good. And then I think tying it in with other initiatives is important as well. So if you're kind of complementing your Carvertise campaign with other things going on in the market, that also helps. So those are the three kind of recipes I would say to do it. I mean, we have clients that are posting on social about the cars that are happening out there. That's leading to more engagement on social, people seeing it, people interacting it. We've done campaigns where actually drivers could enter to win to get a free trip to the location. So one of our clients, Visit St. Pete, they offered a free trip to St. Pete if you scanned a QR code and entered into a competition. That was great because that got a ton of engagement and buy-in as well. So there's a lot of different ideas you can do within each campaign, but
yeah, I would say, you know, definitely creative was like top of my list as well. Like, in addition to obviously your objectives. And again, I can't stress it enough. Like, I love on Visit Cumberland's when it's just like only 90 minutes away, you know, and they're going to their feeder markets that are close. I mean, to me, again, like, if I saw that outside hanging out like that, absolutely, I'd be like, wait, where's this place? Oh, it's only 90 minutes away. So also just, you know, some just understanding, like, you know, less is more, and just having some really like powerful copy. And then, you know, again, kind of what Visit Indy did. They fanned the flames, and what Greg kind of already touched upon. It's kind of doing, layering in a few other different activations, right? And you don't necessarily have to give out a $500 prize pack. It's doing some PR in the beginning, right? Possibly even like gamifying the activation, and something as easy as hey, spot a Visit Indy or Visit Cumberland car and, tweet us with this hashtag. And then you're just engaging. You're getting a ton of engagement online, via Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and all that good stuff. Yeah. And then maybe you give them like a $100 gift card. I don't know. Like, it's fun. People like finding things and searching things or searching for things. And so again, it's kind of like layering those other activations and just being smart around your activation. And a lot of this stuff can really be low lift, I think can really help.
Yeah, and I just feel like I had an epiphany just then. But I mean, for our clients that have Carvertise cars, making the car somewhere that you can stop and check in and earn points is something that could be really cool. So maybe you make the car check-in worth a lot more than you would maybe one of the businesses that are in your destination. Yeah. And then it gets people engaged with the Bandwango Pass as well. So not only are you promoting the Bandwango Pass through the car, but you're also promoting a check-in and engagement that way. So yes. Cool there. We are getting some questions, which is awesome in the Q&A. So from Ellen, have you seen any DMOs wrap their cars in their own destination for a shorter period of time? They're often looking for ways to welcome large groups to the city and have down billboards and large window clings, etc. They've done billboards, large window clings, etc.
Oh yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, Ellen. And yes, the answer is yes. So we've done activations with for Restaurant Week for a few of our clients, Visit Boston, King of Prussia. And the way we position it, it's almost like a staycation campaign, where we identify areas around the city that we want to promote certain attractions to. So yeah, we've done campaigns like that. Another feature we have too, if you're hosting like a big conference or convention, we could have a bunch of cars lined up outside the convention center and saying like, hey, welcome to Madison, like happy to be here. And you get like 5 or 10 Ubers outside, and then they could turn their app on and they could pick people up, as they're kind of going to and from the conference center. So that's a whole nother side of what we offer is like this conference activation campaigns where it's like 2 or 3 days, and it's designed to help attract B2B visitors. But in your own place, yeah, we could definitely do something like that is very customizable toward welcoming people to your destination in a fun and engaging way.
Perfect. Awesome. And then Kevin asked, how do you track the impressions, routes of cars, etc.? He's familiar with Placer, but doesn't understand how it could track the specific car.
Yeah, so every car has a GPS. So we track the routes of where all they drive. And then we have an algorithm that tracks impressions per mile, and it's based on like time of day and location, essentially. So we're able to give impression estimates based on where the cars are driving in their campaigns. And then we work with a company called Street Metrics, which helps us with digital retargeting people who've been exposed to the ad and tracking if they go to a website.
Perfect. And then where do you start if we have people listening to this that are interested in possibly having a car wrapped or talking more? Where do you start with these campaigns? Who do you talk to? Is there a minimum amount of cars that need to be on the road? What does that look like?
Yeah, you get in touch with myself or Lauren, and we can find the right person for you to connect with. But I guess where you start is like, again, it's finding out like, what are we working with, For certain cities, we do have minimums. Like, we wouldn't recommend if you're trying to do a big branding campaign to try to get like 3 cars in Chicago. Like, there's going to be limited effect because you're just not going to. It's just so big. So we have recommendations for each city that are based on like a minimum level of gross rating points of just what percentage of the population will see a car. But yeah, we've done campaigns like, an example of this is Visit Cooperstown, which did 3 cars in Philly. They're a very small budget, and it's usually below what we do. But we said, okay, 3 cars in Philly. It went great, and then they expanded to 30 cars once they got a grant a couple of years later, and they did 3 cities. So it's just it's every DMO is different, and again because of the swarms and because of the the placer data, we can get very targeted. So that kind of, it lessens the need to blitz a market if you can get a little more targeted.
Yeah, and I'd also like to say that visit Indy and visit Cumberland Valley. They have since renewed with us as well. So they saw had a good outcome, saw positive results, and continue to work with us.
Brings me to the question of really the activations in the car. So for Bandwango clients, maybe they don't want to wrap the car with the Bandwango trail, but they want to have that activation in the car. Can you train the drivers to be knowledgeable on the destination or even the passport?
Yeah. So short answer, yes. We do provide, depending on the activation, we will provide talking points, like just very brief bullet points for the drivers. Now, again, these are Uber and Lyft drivers, right? But I will say, just from being fortunate enough to meet a lot of our drivers in person, especially the ones that are getting wrapped locally, because we're based in Wilmington, they have a great they have an enormous amount of pride for what they do, and they love being a part of these campaigns because they feel like they're a part of something like much broader and much larger. So I will say, like, yes, absolutely, provide bullet points, and a lot of them are happy to pass along the information. But also, again, having that tangible piece inside of the car, a postcard, a rack card, things like that they can then supplement, right? Because they don't work for us. They can kind of supplement that other information, like more specific information is key. So they can certainly have handouts, brochures, things of that nature. We've even had some clients that, like to hand out something, take it a step further. Maybe it's a conference or they're doing a swarm at a festival. And, especially during COVID, maybe they wanted to hand out face masks or chapsticks or water bottles or something like that. Again, it all depends on like their budget, but I always say to try to keep it small though, because again, these guys are going to be driving around with this stuff in their trunks. So you don't want to be giving out like flat screen TVs or anything like that. Although that would be wonderful. But yeah, so keep it small. But yes, we can totally provide talking points to the drivers. And again, many of them are more than happy. And they think they're a part of something larger, right? And so they have a lot of fun with it.
Perfect. Awesome. And I know you mentioned that you have 500,000, I believe, a driver pool of that many. How many cars do you currently have in market?
So we have about 3,000 that are in all across the country. But we have we're getting about 50 people a day signing up. So there's a lot of drivers to choose from. And it just depends on the city. Like we've got, over 100 cars active in Boston, for example, right now. Atlanta, we have over 200 cars on the road, there. But Atlanta's a great market. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it just depends. And that's where, some markets might not have as much availability. Other markets, we might have a lot more. That 500,000 number too, by the way, it's not all qualified drivers. Like there's a lot that goes into being a qualified driver. Their car's to be in good condition. They have to have, background checks. We have to have phone interviews with them. They can't have any scratches or dents. They have to be good brand ambassador. So it's a big funnel that we have to choose from, but we have to do careful vetting to choose the best drivers that will align and perform best for their campaigns.
So does Carvertise vet that brand ambassador? Like, do you all do the vetting process, or who does that process?
We do it all.
Yeah, we do it all. We have a whole team of people that are on just pounding the phones. Yep.
Awesome. Cool. And pricing options for what these campaigns look like, I imagine that it ranges, but can you give us some insight on that?
Yeah, most tourism clients will spend on the low end, like around $20,000 for a couple months, 3 months activation of sorts, and then on the high end, it'll go, anywhere over six figures. But typically, it's it just depends on their budget. Typically, it's around 5 to 10% of their overall marketing spend is what we found based on surveys we've taken our clients. Is they'll kind of portion Carvertise in for, like a percentage of their overall budget or the overall campaign for certain things. Or it's when you get a grant and, you're looking to try something new, is where we typically fit in.
Yeah. Awesome. And you both mentioned how important creative is. I know some of the DMOs that we work with don't have ginormous teams that can focus on this really important part of the creative. What does your team look like in that sense? What can you provide for these clients that may not have a graphic team available?
Yeah, so we have a full staff in-house design team. That many of the people on the team have been doing this for many, many years. I will say, yeah, designing a car wrap is very different than designing an ad or something that's 1D or 2D, right? So this is a three-dimensional object, and it's very different designing for something like this because things are wrapping in certain areas and things are going around a bumper, and you got to worry about handles and where making sure that someone's face isn't cut off with where the handle is or the window. So yes, we have a in-house design crew that are more than willing and able and prefer, honestly, to help out our clients. However, if you are a larger DMO and you have, an in-house team, our designers are also more than happy to collaborate, with that team as well. But yeah, I mean, and something to as a side note, like that is included in your price too. So that's not like any kind of markup, right? So design is included.
Yeah. And I just want to emphasize to maybe if we have current clients on the call or potential clients that are just looking into creative ways to activate their marketing campaigns right now. We look at the typical high funnel marketing strategies. You see the billboards, you see the window clings, you see any digital board you can post on. And again, you can't track impressions. You can track them as best you can, but this is real-time data. And then tying it into Bandwango, you can then not only get the impressions from the car wrap, you can drive these people that are either riding in the car or maybe outside the car if the driver's out there, if you have a QR code on the wrap, anything like that, you can drive them to sign up for a Bandwango passport that then drives that first party data. You then have their information. You have the ability to email these people. So really, really creative activation here that you can bring to your board and say, listen, we've done the same thing for the past 15 years. What can we do to switch it up? This is a really great opportunity here. So
Absolutely. Yeah. And I always just, one more thing to add is, again, like when I'm out and about, whether I'm in a city or I'm driving on the road, when a wrapped anything drives by, like it absolutely will get your attention, right? Like it's just something that it's intrusive. You can't ignore it. And so, yeah, so again, no matter what kind of budget you have, it really is an amazing medium to use and to implement.
Awesome. Kevin just asked, what would you say would be a good entry-level budget to get started and do a test run?
So without knowing market, different things like that, I would say like 10 cars for 3 months, which will come out anywhere between like 22 to 25,000. And that depends on the city, how many swarms you want. I'd say if you want to test something, I would test it around a big event in your city. So for example, if you're looking, like I said, for, Atlanta, you can test it around the opening night of Atlanta Hawks games and send cars to every home game throughout the campaign. So I would do it so you have at least 10 cars, you have some swarms that are built into the audience you want, and we would help identify that audience for you. But that's how it gets started. If you're a bigger budget, like Visit Indy started with, their first campaign was 50,000, and they blanketed Chicago with 30 plus cars, and like it went great. They did another campaign. They added more markets, more cars. Not everyone has that kind of money to just spend on a test, so I understand that. But that's why I think like at least Cumberland Valley, they did 10 cars in Philly and DC, which again are big markets, but that 10 car number is what we kind of go back to as like, you got to give it at least a fair shot. Mm-hmm. So that's the range that I would say.
Awesome. And I know that you all work with a lot of different organizations and people other than DMOs. So what would you say is like the biggest difference between working with DMOs versus working with, I know medical is like one sector that you guys work in a lot, I believe, or any of those other sectors you work in?
So we go to a lot of conferences. Tourism conferences are the best. Like there are a lot of fun.
I also, let me jump into your creative is like amazing. I mean, when I see a car wrapped with a beach or someone drinking a beer, you're not going to get that in healthcare. So it's true. It's fun. It's fun, right?
Yeah. No, tourism people, like we love tourism. Like it's a fun industry. You're promoting something good that's positive. Our drivers like it.
Yeah.
Like it's great. So we love tourism. We've been, for 3-4 years now, we've been really kind of pursuing this industry because we really can see the growth opportunity for both parties. And it's just the best. Even the other Bandwango's the best. We got to meet you guys there. And,
yeah.
like,
Yeah. I mean,
it's so much fun. So we love tourism.
To piggyback on that, Greg, tourism, we go to a lot of tourism conferences and are very invested in the tourism community. We're members of Destinations International. We do the Esto show, members of Southeast Tourism. And so, we absolutely love working in and with, the tourism community, and, look forward to seeing everybody on the road in 2023. I can't believe it's already here, but we'll be hitting the trade show circuit again, and hopefully we'll get to meet some of you guys in person.
Perfect. I did have a question roll in. Do you recommend starting the advertising in your own DMO city or in another neighboring city?
It depends on what you need. If you're trying to drive feeder market, visitation, then we'd say, identify like a feeder market that needs help. Another case study we can send out after this is with Visit Gulf County. They identified Nashville as like a major, like, hey, we need to start getting Nashville here. So we were like their kind of first wave of advertising to try to get people from Nashville. They identified concerts and different places where music lovers go because they were trying to push that same kind of demographic to go there. So that's an example of like another market pushing in. But then, like I said, other examples of like, hey, we just need to generate more awareness and excitement about what we have to offer in market. So then I would say, do an in market campaign. So depends on what your biggest need area is.
And just something I thought about is we talk about this full funnel marketing strategy for DMOs. DMOs are really great at getting those impressions, getting those page views. That conversion point is what Bandwango is here to help you with, getting those getting that first party data for your organization. And really, this is almost like a full funnel marketing approach all in one, because you may see the car wrap on the outside. You're like, wow, how beautiful is Tampa? I want to go to the beach. And then you get in the car and you have that activation of, here's where you put in your information now so we can reach out to you soon. So that full funnel strategy of they see it, they want to go there, they get in the car, you also have things to do. So we hear all the time getting heads in beds, we need the hotel stays, we need these people here. But yes, you need those hotel stays, you need those people to get to your destination, but what are they going to do when they get there? You want them to visit those local businesses. So having those activations in the car is super important, and Bandwango can provide that. So
absolutely.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, if we don't have any other questions,
any other questions?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, this was good questions. This was.
I know people did. Yeah.
Pleasantly surprised at the amount of questions we got. Thank you, audience.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you guys.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, if you have any questions for any of us, we will have our emails provided for you all, and then get in touch with Greg and Lauren. If you are interested in starting a Carvertise campaign, get in touch with me if you are looking to start your first Bandwango pass, and we will get you in the right direction. So we appreciate you all for coming, and we look forward to seeing you next month.
Yep.